All right, so happy Friday, everyone, and I would like to welcome you all to our fourth installment of the XPosium, the Web Chalk Talk, or as we call it, our webinar series. So, in case you're joining us for the first time, this is an Apex Global content. So what we do here is basically it's just a webinar wherein we invite our subject matter experts for different topics uh, to share nuggets of knowledge or about certain industry topics that are emerging within our region or the SEA region. And to introduce this afternoon's partner or our partner, it's going to be Confianzas. They're our international partner that is accredited by Blackblot for the strategic product management course. So we're here today to talk about what is strategic product management, why do we need it, or is the Philippine market ready for this? Why is there a demand for such function right now? So with that, I turn over the floor to our partner, Confianzas. More specifically, it's going to be Abby from Confianzas. One moment. Hi, Abby. Can you hear us?
Yes, hi.
Oh, hi, Chris. Hi.
Hi. All right. Thank you, CJ, for introducing us. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome and thank you for today's webinar, Strategic Product Management versus Product Management. I'm Chris. I'm a Strategic Thinking Specialist at Confianzas, and I'll be moderating today. A couple of pointers. I think everybody can hear me. In case you guys cannot hear me, we have a chat box in our Zoom webinar session that you can leave questions and comments at. We're going to take about 45 minutes for the presentation itself, and we'll end with a Q&A session at the end. For the questions that you have for Q&A, please comment in our chat box. And for any other queries, please comment in our chat box, and we will be getting back to you either through the session or after, because we might not be able to answer everybody's questions. So those are just the pointers. Another pointer would be to leave the slide number along with the question, so we know exactly what you're referring to. And those are all the pointers that we have today. Let's get into the webinar for now. Today's topic is strategic product management versus product management. And to understand the difference that strategic thinking brings into product management, we first need to understand the underlying principles of the product management domain itself. Today, there's been a lot of activity in and interest in product management over the last couple of years, with books, articles, and blogs creating a lot of digital info on product management, but it's also created a lot of confusion. There isn't enough accurate information on what product management really is and how to define it, where to place it, and what part of the organization it takes up. This in turn has created hundreds or even thousands of Google searches or every month or every week about what a product manager is and what product management really is. We're here to address the lack of information, and we're going to give you some more idea on what it really is today in our webinar. And we have with us today's presenter, Pradeep. Pradeep, I'm just going to do a quick intro on Pradeep and then I'll hand it over to him. Pradeep has been a part of Confianzas from the very beginning and has over 27 years of professional experience, including product management, sales, and consulting. He's the lead facilitator in the strategic thinking and the strategic product management courses and has trained over 1,200 professionals in roles like product managers, product owners, and tech leaders in the Black Dot methodology. So I'm just going to hand it over to Pradeep right now and we can get into the seminar. I'm going to be going off screen for a minute and then we'll come back with Pradeep.
Hey folks, this is Pradeep here. I'm the lead facilitator who's going to take you through the presentation. So let me give you a little bit of background to why you think you are here and what benefits you're going to get in this session. And we all know that Philippines is one of the fastest growing digital economies in Asia. It is no exception to other countries in Asia. Now, what this means is the fact that digital transformation is also reaching the shores of Philippines. Digital transformation has actually upended many industries, many markets, completely changed the way people do business. Today, and that also means that it has impacted the roles and responsibilities and jobs in traditional industries, including technology. Let me give you some examples of what these role changes have happened in the globe, and I'm sure Philippines is no exception very soon. One of our clients, who's a global cloud and software provider, one of the largest in the world, actually is rebadging all their product owners and program managers as product managers, because they discovered that most of their folks are internal facing and really don't seem to know what's happening in the market and what's happening to the end customers. And I'm sure that's a common problem for most companies everywhere in the world, including in India. Another great example is one of our clients, Walmart. Walmart, the largest firm in the world, they actually have transformed their IT department and now they call it Walmart Labs. They've separated it out of Walmart, the corporation, and Walmart's Labs charter is to come up with new innovative products and services for both the traditional retail business as well as competing with the likes of Amazon. So they have created this new cadre of people called product managers, and many product owners and business analysts and traditional tech folks are moving into that role. A fantastic example in fintech is Capital one of the largest banks in the US. In the last couple of years, they've actually reinvented themselves as a digital bank. And all the traditional managers, product managers, have been redesignated as digital product managers because they want to compete in the fintech world. They want to compete with the upstart startups that are coming up in fintech. So this just gives you an idea how important that product management is becoming to all industries, not just technology. And technology itself is changing so much. So with this backdrop, we need to know why strategic product management and what it means to us. So let me, without further ado, get into the actual presentation, right? So let's understand the product management domain. As you see, what do you see in the picture? You see beach toys that kids play on the beach with. Now, who buys them? You would say parents. What are parents interested? What's a parent's interest in the toy? They're concerned if the child will be engaged. Can it carry it? Is it strong and sturdy? Will it last long? And will it keep the child happy? Will it keep it engaged so that I can do my work better and have free time to myself? Right? So parents buy these toys and we call them buyers. Now, what's the interest for the child in the toy? Child is interested in what it can do with the toy, essentially play. Can it carry water from the sea and come back to the beach? Can it play around with it? Can it make a lot of sound? As you can see with the pail, you would see the kids banging the bucket and actually fill the bucket with sand. These are the kinds of things that the child is interested in. And as you can see, and you would have noticed that what interests the parents and what interests the child are completely different. Now, this is one of the big dichotomies that product management helps us understand. In fact, Lego, the company that is very famous in the toys business, actually learn product management with this from the child rather than the parent. Now let me move on to what really is the product management domain. So the child is interested in what it can do with it, what we call functionality. This is done by a function called product planning, and the value of the product, buying that product for the child, is articulated to the buyer, that is the parent here, through product marketing. Now, that is what we call the buyer. Now, product planning and product marketing is focusing on balancing the needs of both the user and the buyer so that a successful product can be made and sold. Right? Now, in technology specifically, one of the big challenges is that because the buyer is the one paying for the toy, or if you take a industry example, the technology buyer, maybe the CIO or the CTO in a large enterprise, he's the one who we think is buying. We tend to follow the money, like all of us would love to follow the money. We tend to follow the money, and we tend to focus more on the buyer to the detriment of the user. And a company like Lego, for example, understood this very early and made sure that the focus on both the user, the child, and the parent is equal and well balanced. So that is essentially what the product management domain is supposed to understand. And as you can see, what really is interesting is about what does the child want and what does the parent want. So there's a discipline overlap because both need equal attention. So product planning and product marketing together form product management. Now let me move on. So where does product management fit in an enterprise or even in a startup? For that, we have to understand the concept of what is called the problem space and solution space. The problem space is like a metaphorical or philosophical space where all of our problems reside. And in this particular case, for our products, it's about what problems do our customers have, typically the user and the buyer, the child and the parent, the functional head and the IT head. These are different types of customers that we have, and all their problems together constitute a problem space. And product management is concerned about that, like we understood from the previous example. So product management is in problem space, while product and technology is in the solution space. Solution space is a space where we offer solutions to the problems that the world and the customers have. Why does somebody build a product, or why does somebody invest in technology? It's to solve the problems of the customer, and which happen to be in the problem space, and that's where product management belongs. So engineering actually therefore belongs to the solution space. Engineering, product development, IT, all these teams are responsible for delivering the solutions that the problem space users are asking for. Now you'll notice a red line in between. Now this red line demarcates the space because psychological research has proven that people who are good at articulating the problems are not necessarily good at building the solutions, and vice versa. So there is a big demarcation that needs to be there in the organization, and that is why the red line indicates that people don't cross over without the necessary interfaces and necessary information. So to reiterate, product management is in the problem space, and engineering and technology is in the solution space, and both together deliver to the problems and that the market faces. So let me kind of mean, what is the expertise then that a person needs to have in problem space or to be in product management? The most important thing is obviously to know to ask the right question even to meet a customer, be able to understand the problems. So the most critical expertise is problem telling. Now what is problem telling? Now whereas in the solution space you need to do problem solving. So as you can see, problem telling and problem solving are completely different competencies. Now let me give an example of what we mean by that. Let's say we were asking the parent, what do you really want? And they would be worried about the fact that we said it's a sturdy toy, it's very strong. And if engineers were to build it, they would make a very heavy bucket, only to find that the child is not able to use it, not able to carry it, and complain. So it's problem telling is to be able to articulate really what the user or the child needs and not necessarily what the buyer needs, and that we call market expertise, which helps us understand the market and articulate the problem very well to the engineering or development or the IT teams. Whereas IT teams need to have the competency of knowing the product and the technology so deeply, and they can offer scintillating innovative solutions for the problems that the problem teller is giving them. So same red line, product management in problem space and engineering in solution space. So with the rationale that we gave you, you'll now understand why these two spaces are different, why these two functions are different, and why they need to collaborate to deliver to the market. Now that we've understood this, let's move on to what are the foundational rules for product management. Well, first rule is product management comprises both of product planning and marketing. It's not one or the other. Globally today, or a few years back, most companies, when they talked about product management, is only about product planning, and then they realized that it is imbalanced, and now product planning and product marketing is part of product management. The second rule, and a very important rule, is product management resides solely in problem space. We are interested in the user and the buyer, that is our customer and our market, and we need to invest time in that. So that's why product management resides solely in problem space. Now, how do companies actually bring this to reality? Now, let me take Microsoft as an example. In the early 80s, when Bill Gates was firstly making a lot of money, but Microsoft as a company was bringing a lot of products that were failing in the market. Either the product didn't meet needs of the customers, or there are a lot of bugs and challenges that made customers reject it. So Microsoft, in its quest to solve this issue, Bill Gates personally invited some folks like Mike Maples from IBM to come and fix this issue. And over a period of a year, they came up with a model that allows problem space and solution space to work together extremely well in a balanced manner without interfering with each other, and came up with this software framework. Now, this is the framework that most globally successful technology companies, be they Microsoft, IBM, SAP, HP, Oracle, Stripe, all use to sort of manage the function, manage the relationship between product management, that is problem space and solution space, which is again shown in the red line. The most important thing about this chart is to say that there is no hierarchy. Somebody doesn't report to the other. They work collaboratively to make sure that products that really come out of the market do the job they're supposed to do, right? And this also tells us that functions like sales, marketing, all of them are in problem space because they are supposed to bring the market's insight into the organization so that the solution space folks like engineering and development can actually deliver on that. So this distinction is very important to understand, and I hope we made that clear. So now comes to the confusion. We talked about the confusion in product management. Now that we know product management resides in problem space, so what does it really mean? How do I define it? So imagine a hiring manager were to ask you, what do you do in product management? So here's the right definition to tell them. Product management is a market-focused corporate activity. Market-focused. Please note, not internal focus, not customer focus. Market-focused corporate activity that uncovers potentially profitable market problems. It's not any problem. It's got to be potentially profitable market problems, and communicates that to internal stakeholders in a format and a language that they can understand, and then build the solutions that are required to solve those problems. Let me repeat, potentially profitable market problems and communicate them. And the solution space folks can take this and specify and build those solutions. So product management is a market-focused corporate activity. Now, if somebody asks, what do you do as a product manager? This is a question that often flummoxes you, and product managers have been in the business for a long time. Product managers are market expert who seeks potentially profitable market problems and describes them to product developers. So this kind of sets the boundary of what really a product manager needs to do, worry about the user and the buyer and customer, and be the market expert on that. He's the market expert in the company, and if he's doing anything over and above this, he's actually doing more than what the product management role demands. Now, if you want to know if you had a good day at the office as a product manager, This is the focus or the philosophy with which you do your job. Product manager is not about managing a product. Just because the title says so, it doesn't mean you're managing the product. You're actually managing the problem which the product solves. You're managing the problem which the product solves. So you are the problem expert, you are the market expert, and your focus has to be on that. And as long as you keep guiding the company, your teams that work with you, maybe you're working in a startup, maybe you're working in a large enterprise, maybe you work in a function like IT, or you're in the healthcare business, focus has to keep making sure that the rest of the organization really understands what is the problem and are not veering away and doing things that don't affect the problem and, and what the needs of the market. So the philosophy of the product manager is you are managing the problem of the product, not which the product solves. So that's to give you a sense of how do you really define your role, how do you really define the function, how do leaders then need to place you. These are all, I'm sure gave you insight into that. Now, equally important, because of all the confusion in the world, because people have transitioned from different roles, let's be clear what product management is not. Product management is not product development, software development, program management, product management, Scrum, product ownership, profit and loss accountability, release management. These are all functions that are important, but they're all in the solution space and they need to work collaboratively with the product management team. So if in companies, in fact, globally, companies are moving away from this and making sure that product managers really become strategic and focus only on the problem space. Now that we're clear what product management is, what its scope is, and what product management is not, let me come to what are the strategic skills for product managers today. Let me kind of elaborate this. Today, in most countries like India or Philippines, those who do product management essentially do what we call generic product. They focus on writing product requirements, wireframing, feature development. They're more interested in the feature. Most of the work is doing A/B testing, prototyping, growth hacking. Now, this is what we call generic product management. And on the other hand, Scrum product owners are writing technical user stories, grooming the backlog, managing the backlog, participating in Scrum ceremonies, and managing the project. They also do a little bit of architecture and testing to make sure that the product comes on time. And then they think, and then people assume that they're actually doing the product management role. But actually, what you really need to do is strategic product management, and those are the skills that are required. Can I develop a market strategy for my product? Can I articulate the product strategy for my product? Can I design the go-to-market? Can I do an ecosystem? Do strategic product planning and strategic product marketing, writing market requirements. So these are the skills that really define and differentiate a strategic product manager from what is generally done in product management today. Now in Philippines, it could differ, but globally, and even in countries like India, this has been the big challenge that most people start with generic product management and get stuck there. And in turn, that has an impact on the success of the product in the market. Right? So I hope all of you are there with me. Just a few more slides. Now that we've established what strategic skills that a product manager needs today in this digital world, let's move to what are the failures in not thinking strategy. Research on technology companies, funded technology companies globally, which is a longitudinal research which has been happening for the last 20 years, says that 99.7% of all technology products fail in the market. That's an astounding number for the kind of money that is poured into technology, 99.7. And the single largest reason for failure is the fact that the product or the technology didn't have a market need. Let's chew on that. 62% of all products that failed didn't have a market need. So what does it mean really? So it meant that those companies may not have understood the market opportunity, did not understand the customer well, in that they didn't know the user and the buyer well, they focus more on the buyer. Myopic market definition. What do you mean by that market definition? Let's say you're in health, if you're in a medical devices industry or you are in edutech or fintech, you define your product as fintech or edutech, not by what problem it solves for the market. So medical devices industry is not in the medical devices, they are in the healthcare industry. Edutech is in the learning industry. So not being able to define a market from a market perspective and hence markets not resonating with you is causing these failures. Another important failure is dominant technology or solutions-based thinking. Typically, in any organization, the engineering and development of the IT team is much larger, so they tend to have a larger voice, and most often than not, they end up dictating what products and services need to be built, not meeting the market requirement, and this creates a significant technology mindset which customers and markets react. And the fifth cause is having invested in our product, and then even finding that the market is not responding, we are not able to pull back in time, and we call it sunk cost. We keep defending our investments, keep continuing this, and it's up to the product manager to make sure that it doesn't happen. So these are 5 key failures in not thinking strategically. So what are the issues related to the user-buyer dualism? We talked about the fact that the user and buyer need equal attention, and we talked about that we tend to pay a lot of attention to the buyer. Now, what happens because of that? Companies tend to have a disproportionate focus on the buyer. Most of the research, most of the inputs, most of the requirements are coming from the buyer. And even analyst reports like from Gartner or any other industry reports talk about what technology is going to get adopted, but nobody tells us how you really need to build a product, what is the real needs of it. Whereas on the buyer side, which means there's little or real no focus on the user. So this is where Lego, for example, learned the hard way and said, hey, you know what? In our company, we'll always focus on the user. All our investments in being understanding the user, creating insights. Now, you may argue that, hey, in my company, we do not have access. But globally now, companies are realizing, and I gave you the example of that technology company where they're redesignating program managers to product managers because they want these product managers to invest time in their users. And which means companies need to focus on investing on user research and skills and building competencies like problem telling. These are strategic issues due to this gap. So now that we have come across what is product management, where is it placed, what are the strategic skills and the issues of not being strategic, let's figure out why we need strategic thinking in technology. Why is technology so unique that we need to focus on strategic thinking? First is the nature of technology itself. If I were to ask you what is technology, the classical answer would go as tools, techniques, devices, something that solves a problem. But really, if you ask human beings what is technology, they would say that it is a way of doing things. So if you're walking from point A to point B, actually you're using a technology called walking. If you're calling somebody, you're communicating. That is what they call technology. And as you can see on the picture, people have been communicating on phones over years. It's just that the way they have been communicating and the devices they have been using is changing. So the needs never change, but the solutions keep changing. So focusing on the way of doing things is what we define as technology. Now, what does this mean? What is the meaning? Because this lack of understanding of the definition, what the tech industry calls innovation or technology or seen as an innovation, customers see it as a way of disrupting it. It's funny, the fact that we call it disruptive technology, they actually focus on the word disruption and get upset. They feel that, hey, this is going to disrupt the way we do things, so we need to push back. Does it really add value to me is what they're checking. So really what we need, the mindset that we really need is to tackle this perception of technology that there is a gap between the technology mindset, whereas what customers and markets are seeking are functional and value seeking. They are in the value seeking mindset. And the sweet spot is in between that. If we do not understand this, we tend to build products which are very tech focused. Like I gave you some data, it ends up in a failure. So let me reiterate, we see technology as something that is innovative, whereas customers and markets see it as disruptive. And that is why we need to bridge these mindsets. Bridge the gap between the tech mindset and the functional mindset. And for that, the most critical thing we need is critical thinking in the techno-functional domain. Why do we need critical thinking in the techno-functional domain? Product managers need to be able to articulate the problem to the developers and the rest of the organization in a manner that they understand. Similarly, the tech folks need to be able to understand what the markets and customers are asking so that this gap can be bridged and a common mindset can be established. A strategic framework is required which is principle based, has the right tools, bridges the mindsets, which in turn improves the articulation and collaboration. When we say improves the articulation and collaboration, it's not enough that I tell the problem, but I need to say it in a manner that the rest of the organization understands and can take action. And when they get stuck, they can come back and collaborate and figure out innovative solutions to the problems that the market has. So bridging these mindsets through a critical thinking approach in the techno-functional domain is vital to be successful. Now, what are the hard skills for today's strategic product manager in this digital transforming world? Companies globally are putting their money on these 4 critical skills that they believe that a strategic product manager of today needs to have. In fact, the UN and the World Economic Forum is working on what is called the future of work. The current future of work report very clearly articulates what skills that tech folks need, even folks who use technology need. And these are the 4 critical things that they highlight. First is problem space thinking. We talked about product management problem space, and it's not enough that I as alone as an individual know it. I need an algorithmic approach, something that I can repeat every day. And not only that I repeat every day, but I can also coach and train my team in being able to uncover customer market needs and problems and make sure that the company is constantly focusing on it. In the digital world, customers do not give requirements anymore. If you ask a customer what do you want, probably they'll get a blank look because they don't understand the power of technology. So they have a lot of needs. It's for us to have the skills to uncover these non-obvious needs and offer them emergent solutions that can create breakthroughs for them. So it is another critical skill, the ability to discover non-obvious needs. Now, as a product manager, I need to work with the rest of the organization. It's clearly established. How can I do that unless there's a shared understanding? So I have to articulate the value the market and the customer needs, keep reminding the organization so that organizational politics and bottlenecks can be crossed so that a common understanding is achieved as to what we are doing for the customer. And this information flow, this value-driven understanding has to flow from the problem space to solution space and back. And strategic product managers need to be equipped to do that very well. The fourth, and Apple is a great example here of whole product thinking. It's not just the iPhone that they built, it's not just the iPod, but they actually also came up with the iTunes app. Why? Because they want to solve the complete problem that the customer had. So for that, they went out all out of the way to tie up with artists, with labels, and solve this issue of being able to deliver music in a very easy listening experience to the user. So today, every product manager who's building a digital, part of building a digital product, needs to have whole product thinking. And there are certain guiding principles and methods to do whole product thinking. And that's another strategic skill that is expected of the strategic product manager. So, this is where most of the investments global companies are making. And I gave you examples where, they're trying to balance between understanding the child and the parent, the actual end user and the actual technology. Salesforce comes to mind. Salesforce is a great example. In fact, the last few years of Salesforce, growth of Salesforce, it flocks them itself. And when they analyzed, they found that chief marketing officers were just going onto the Salesforce site and signing up because there was tremendous pressure from marketing and sales folks to make their operations better. And most often than not, the CIOs and CTOs were not even aware of it. So you see, and Salesforce today has built an ecosystem of several partners who add value, different components that Salesforce itself cannot do for different industries, and that is called whole product thinking. So every product manager going forward will be expected to have that skill. So let me move forward, and I hope you guys are still there. We just need a few more minutes to wrap this up. So now that I know what are the skills, what are the roles that are really part of this problem space so that we can actually do product management very well. So there are 4 roles in what we call the product management team model in problem space. We know the product planner and the product marketer being part of product management. Interestingly, roles like sales engineer, pre-sales, sales, we need to build the expertise of advocacy. When they go to meet customers, they need to be talking about having an understanding of the problems that the customers are facing and how a product can solve that problem, rather than talk about the company or just about building a relationship. We all know that today in a digital world, many a time, may not even meet a customer. My customer may just sign up on the web. So unless even your website is talking about advocating your product in the context of the market problem, the chances of the product being successful is very, very minimal. So the other role is Marcom. Marcom is a media expert. They are the ones who can guide how do we really need to articulate value, what vehicles do we need. Today, many companies are spending a whole lot of money on digital marketing without necessarily getting the results. It's because the relationship between product marketing and Marcom is not well established. Marcom really doesn't know. There's tremendous pressure to just do digital marketing because that's the way to do things. And overall, the customer never gets to see the value in the right places. So Marcom becomes a critical part of this team. So 4 of these members, though they may be reporting to different functions, have to work as a team on the market side to be able to understand what the market needs and also articulate the value back. So the product planner is a market expert, product marketer is a marketing expert, sales folks are advocacy expert, and Marcom are media expert. These 4 expertises need to come together, and because these are all different, obviously it needs to be in different people. Now, if one person is doing all of this, you can imagine that they'll have to build different types of expertise and be clear what they're doing when they do. So that's the product management team model. Now, what are the roles and goals of this product management? Why is the team? The most important thing to understand is for the product planner and the product marketer, it's about making sure customers are satisfied. That they're buying your product, they're using it extensively, they're renewing it if it's a SaaS product consistently, they're able, so you get your revenue going, and plus usage is about upwards of 90% for most of the features. For the product market is a satisfied sales force, so that the sales force can actually talk about the problems that the product solves rather than just talk about the technology or the product and be uncomfortable and then drag tech folks to come and sell. The other roles also have their own responsibilities, but primarily from a planner and marketer, this is what the role is. Even more important, so Blackplot, based on around 15 years of research, has come up with certain recommendations. The recommendation is for every product planner or a product manager, as is called in some companies, there needs to be 1 product manager, 1 Marcom manager, 1 sales engineer, and 3 sales managers. Because obviously, you want to reach a wider market, so you need more sales people. But this is also a very balanced combination that helps even smaller companies invest in the right kind of skills and build the right team so that they can win in the market. So who do we hire in these roles? What are their profiles? While there could be a lot of roles and responsibilities, the most important thing is to focus on the mindset. Leaders here in this audience may want to understand this much more. How do I really know which role am I suited for? Am I good for planning? Am I good for marketing? Am I good for both? It's important to focus on the mindset. If you have a formalized or deterministic mindset, now what do I mean by formalized deterministic mindset? You've seen the child play with a toy, or you imagine what they do, and there is pressure on the company to say, hey, we need to build a very strong bucket, and unfortunately you see that the child is not using it. Then you need to be able to articulate that exactly as it is, in a very methodical and structured approach to your company. Whatever you observe about the user and the customer and the buyer, you have to be able to articulate exactly as it is and not add your own imagination or thinking. Now that means you have a deterministic mindset, a formalized mindset, and you have a structured approach to articulate that. Typically, engineers are very good at that. Business analysts are very good at this. Product owners are good at it. So they are very suitable to do the product owner role, product planner role very. Now, marketing is a conceptual domain. So if you want to do marketing well, you have to be able to deal with ambiguity. There's no one marketing strategy that will work. Buyers can keep changing their needs. So you need to have different ways to approach it. So as a mindset, you need to be comfortable with probability and not with exact. This is where marketing succeeds. Now, if in your company or in your startup, you have, because of resource constraints or otherwise, need 1 person to do both the roles of planning and marketing, then they need to be aware that they are switching mindsets on a regular basis. They need to know when to switch the mindset. And as long as they're aware of switching the mindsets, it will work perfectly. In fact, in North America, they have planning and marketing done by two different people because they believe that it's difficult to switch mindsets. Whereas in Europe, where they significantly invest in training for people, they bridge this mindset, and most companies, it's one person who's doing both these roles. So that's about the mindset. Moving forward, this is an indication. Now, there could be a question, okay, what happens in the daily life of a product manager? What do I really do? So 60% of the time of the product manager is spent in understanding the market, in becoming a market expert. And 40% of the time is in articulating that to the rest of the team, the form of requirements, roadmaps, and things like that. A product marketer spends 30% of his time in analyzing opportunities. Remember, we said the product management domain uncovers potentially profitable market problems. Now, how do I articulate a profitable problem? I create a business case. And after that product is built, I go back and articulate value via positioning and value documents. And 70% of the time of a product marketer is spent on that. Pre-sales, what we call a sales engineer here, essentially is the expert on the product and the customer, and he spends time in articulating value of the product to specific customers and gets feedback from the market and passes that back to the product management team to keep making changes and modifications based on the roadmap. So these are some guidelines. So as you can see, even the time, how much time needs to be spent on what has been well thought out in the strategic product management domain. And if we follow it to a great extent, we will be successful product managers. Now, why do we need to do this consistently? It's been 35 years since the technology industry started adopting product management. Originally, it was under engineering, and it has taken us 35 years to get a seat at the C table. And we need to keep it. It's taken us a huge amount of effort to get here. And the reason why executives think that product management needs to have a seat at the table is because they are really the market experts. They are the ones focusing on the customers' needs and problems and come up with solutions. So this is a good chart to give you an indication where product management really is today, and therefore, what are the career opportunities for us today. Strategic product managers are ideal CEO candidates because of their ability to vision, strategy, and business skills. In fact, Steve Jobs in his biography, right, talks about he wanted to be remembered as a great strategic product manager and not as a CEO. And in his company, he was very keen to promote strategic product managers as ideal candidates for CEOs. And this is happening in most tech companies, right? Over time, you will see that a lot more strategic product managers actually become CEOs. Global tech companies are increasingly seeking strategic product managers because there's a survey of people who do Scrum product ownership, business analysis, all project management, enough number of people, but really very few people who can actually do the strategic product management role. The typical career path of a product manager is you start as a product manager, maybe doing both planning and marketing or one of them, then you become a principal product manager, then you become a director of product management. That's when probably you start having a team of product managers, then a VP of product management where you own a complete BU based on a product, and finally a CEO announcement. Most product managers, along with tech folks, are forming the killer companies in Silicon Valley today. Product managers are individual contributors. Now, this is a data point. It's a very important point to know. Product managers, especially in Silicon Valley, who are even individual contributors, earn up to more than 60% than the typical product owner or Scrum Master or BA. This is data, of course, relevant in North America, and we're seeing this in India, we're seeing this in Europe. Just the numbers differ, but strategic product managers earn more, significantly more than their counterparts in other roles and functions. So it is a rewarding career. It's something that we need to invest, and it's an exciting career because it's all about customers' needs, markets, and problems. Right? So now that I know what the career opportunities are, how do I really be successful in a company, in a technology company? That's why we believe strategic thinking is not just for the product manager, it's also for the other functional roles. Let me explain what I mean. In our work over the last 15 years, these are the top 3 challenges that product leaders have told us. The heads of products, the heads of technology teams say first challenge is innovation. No surprise there. That's been the pressure for the last 15-20 years. Many companies have done various things to be innovative, but essentially there is a constant pressure. The most important problem is lots of companies are coming with great ideas, but they're not able to really convert it to the functional products that markets really deserve and need. The second problem is articulation. I have a team that is product managers, sales, and technology folks. I need clarity and coherence and a shared vision understanding in all the stakeholders. So as individuals, we need to be able to articulate strategically with clarity so that stakeholders can take the necessary action and empower us. The third challenge that they say is collaboration, because there is no common language between, say, problem space and solution space, between the language that the user and buyer speak versus the language that the product and technology speaks. Collaboration is a big challenge. Everybody is doing their own thing because they don't understand really, they don't have a shared vision. That's another challenge that we need to, which leaders keep talking about. So to solve these three challenges, we need a strategic framework, and we need new skills that are ready to deal with the future of work. A lot of the work that we will today that we do as product managers or tech folks are going to be taken away by machines. Only strategic skills and neo skills are going to be able to keep us in our jobs. So the challenges, the required skills for those three challenges: one is critical thinking, which is what we call techno-functional strategic thinking. Communication is not just about being able to talk well, but being able to strategically articulate where the ship is going. We should be able to manage both the map and the compass, right? Creativity, which is something that especially for innovation is a critical thing, because everybody understands the problem the same way. You're going to have the same set of products and services, then you're going to struggle to differentiate. So to bring our technology prowess into play, we need to have creative skills. And fourth critical thing is collaboration. It's just not collaboration within the company. Like I gave you the Apple example, you need to be able to collaborate with the larger ecosystem on a common shared vision so that you can deliver kick-ass products to the market. So a strategic framework helps build these skills and creates a common unified understanding. And so we need a strategic common unified course to deliver these skills for us, right? So what does strategic thinking, how does it manifest in day-to-day work? So critical thinking, which is essentially a left brain thinking skill, helps us uncover larger and lucrative problems that are going to last for a long time, and hence keep our business running for a long time. And this also helps us articulate these problems and get buy-in from the right folks. Creativity, which is a right brain skill, is essentially important, is very important for those folks who build solutions in technology or in development. So it's not enough that I'm a good programmer or a full stack developer or a good product owner. I also need to have creativity to really empathize and understand what the market really wants. And we already talked about collaboration and communication in detail. When we say communication, is about better articulation of the problem and the solution. So the strategic thinking framework bridges the technical with the functional, bridges the technical mindset with the value mindset, and for which, and as you see, most companies today, most of the investments in training are on technical training. Everybody wants to learn the latest technology, Python, R, Java, Cassandra. I mean, a person could die just listening to all this jargon, and a little bit of functional training, but there's nothing in between to invest in critical skills, and that's really what is important. And strategic thinking, therefore, the set of principles, set of first principles. The key word is first principles. It's like Newtonian laws. Every time you apply, the result is the same. And whatever be the technology change in the world, I should still be consistently able to understand the market and deliver the products and solutions that they demand. These are principles and models that govern how customers and markets think about needs and articulate that. And this is about how we need to think about bringing the right products and solutions so that this gap is bridged. So that's the strategic thinking framework. That's an integral part of strategic product management. And I hope I gave you enough insight to tell you why this is a fantastic and exciting career, and why it's a fantastic time to be in this role. given the digital world that is on a doorstep right now. And I hope you are able to take the necessary direction on this basis. Thank you so much. I'm open to question answers. Um, I'm going to get my colleague Chris on the line for a minute before I start answering questions.
So for those of you who weren't able to join us from the beginning, if you'd like to catch up, please leave your comments in the chat box and we will get back to you post the session for any catch up that you would like. For the Q&A right now, we'd like all of you to please comment in the chat box. Preferably, it would take much more time if everybody had to raise their hand and speak up. We would prefer if you would comment in the chat box, whatever you have, and we will be taking a few questions as of now. As mentioned, if we are not able to answer what you wanted us to answer, we will get back to you post the webinar. So we're going to the chat box.
Hi, Chrisma.
Yeah, hi CJ.
Hi, it's me. So I guess I'll start with one of the questions since I think people are shy. Okay, so as I am also a product manager myself, I would like to also know what are the common challenges that other product managers are facing globally, and how do we usually combat these kinds of challenges?
CJ, could you please repeat that again?
I'm sorry. Okay. So, what are the common challenges that product managers face globally? So, what are the common challenges present within different corners of the globe, and how do we? What is the best practice in combating these challenges?
Oh, that's a great question, CJ. I mean, it's been one of the top questions every time we do this kind of session. So the common challenges essentially is the fact that product managers are doing a lot more work than what is demanded in the problem space. They are doing a lot of work in the solution space. They are forced to do work very closely with engineers because typically engineers know the technology and that kind of dominates the conversation. So the only way for you to be able to tackle that challenge is to demonstrate that you are the market expert, for which we need critical thinking skills. You need to be able to talk to customers and really understand the needs and problems. The issue happens is you have conversations with customers, typically that comes from sales, pre-sales, or websites, customer support, or whatever in that role, and most of them are telling the problems the way they see it. You've not been able to really interpret and actually sort of really understand that, and then you end up articulating that, and engineers and others are easily able to find gaps in that. And when they actually build the features, it really doesn't fly. So you become the bad guy. So the only way to tackle this challenge is to sort of start focusing on building this critical thinking skills, stay in the problem space, let the business case guide the set of actions that the companies need to take. And for building a business case, obviously you need to be able to understand the market and articulate that why we need to invest in solving the problem and how we will make money. And if you do that well and you win a business case, then typically organization rallies around you. Apart from that, there are a lot of issues for organizational politics and things like that. Now, that's something an individual may not be able to tackle, but the more articulate they are about the customer's needs and problems, more they're able to gently push back with the right arguments. They will see that these challenges get minimized over time, right? A lot of the challenges happen because most often they're not their individual contributors. And like in any organization which has where you work with an individual contributor, you can only influence without authority. And the influence can come only through expertise and knowledge, and you should not fall into the trap that hey, I also want to sound cool and let me understand the technology, let me go deep into it, only then I can have a conversation with the rest of the folks. That's actually a trap. Because when the chicken come home to roost, you'll find that you're not able to articulate what the problem is, and then you lose credibility. So hope that kind of gave you some insight into how product managers globally are handling these challenges. And companies, successful companies like Stripe, Oracle, Microsoft, Apple, they actually even fixed it organizationally by making product management a C-level function. So there is history there. There's enough evidence to say that if product management does its job, these challenges will go away.
So we have another question here from PJLI. They're asking us, how can you transition from a software engineering role into a product management role?
Great. While obviously the first thing you need to understand is that because you've been a software engineer, and I'm presuming you've had a few years of experience, maybe 2 or 3, a lot of your time has been spent in the solution space and technology space. So the core goal of your transition has to be to build skills in the problem space and to be able to succeed in the problem space while leveraging all that you know about technology that you've invested over these years. So now that's kind of the guiding post, guiding way to think about your transition from software engineering to product management. Because like I said, these are in 2 different spaces. Now the important thing is, the interesting thing is, of course, that as a software engineer, one of the things that drives you would be obviously is how a customer is actually using what I built. So did you ever get a chance to actually see that? Very rarely. So here's a chance for you to actually guide that and dictate that. So you need to sort of start focusing on that. So today, if you are a software engineer, look for opportunities to work with your product managers. Look to understand the needs and problems. Do some side gigs and side projects along with product managers to get a sense of, are you comfortable with or not? Yeah, and that also kind of helps your work today. So when you get a sense of what it takes to understand the customer in the market, you can clearly build a plan to move from software engineering to product management. It is not something that you can do overnight. Everybody knows that. Typically, it takes a 6 to 9 months kind of time frame if you're focused on it. And today, world over, and then we talked about strategic thinking, and I gave the example of Walmart Labs and all, where they have completely redesignated their software engineers and moved them to become PMs, because they want people who've been in the business long, who know the technology and can bridge this gap. So it is definitely worthy proposition to move from a software engineer. It has been done before. In fact, globally, more than 90% of strategic product managers today come from the engineering domain, right? And obviously it also helps you survive in the organization. Now the transition itself, like I said, has to be in steps. Get a clear understanding that you're moving from solution space to problem space. Get an understanding of what are the skills required in problem space, and then come up with a learning plan that can assist you in this moving while doing projects. And even today, when you're writing code, think about really what is the user trying to solve with this part. What does this feature really do to him? When you start doing that, slowly you will see that you're internalizing this. That's a better place to be in for transitioning rather than just doing a course, right? And I see a lot of software engineers go do Scrum product ownership, Agile and all these courses. They're all needed. They're all good. They're all part of equipping you as a product manager. But really, what you need to invest in is in problem space and critical thinking skills. I hope I gave you some insight. And if you still need, do please think. Chris, do we have another question?
We don't have a question, but there is an appreciation. Thanks, Ashok. So he's also asking us if we are uploading this onto a website. Yes, there is. CJ will answer that for you. CJ, can you come on again now?
Yes, thank you very much, Chris. So, Ashok, we will be sharing the slides and the recording of the webinar as well. But there would be a survey form that you would need to fill out. So once you complete the survey form, you will receive the download link for the webinar slides and the link for the webinar recording as well.
Okay, thank you, CJ. If there are any other questions, we're here. If there isn't anything else, you can write to CJ if he's put up the email address that you can reach out to. Please reach out to that and we will get in touch with you for further information. All right, CJ.
All right. So again, we would, in behalf of all the participants here present on the Exposium, we would like to thank Pradeep for the very insightful session. I think all of us product managers have now been illuminated on what we need to do and where we need to go. And as for you guys, the participants, we will be hosting a 4-day product management training this coming November. And if you are interested to attend, we will be sending, or we will also be sharing details of the training. It's going to be a certification course, so you would be globally certified for 4 different certifications or qualifications for that. And also, again, we will be sending the survey form within the day. So please do let us know how we did, and what we could do better. So again, thank you very much, Confiances, guys, and I wish everyone a happy or a great weekend ahead.
Thank you, CJ. CJ, Pradeep here. I would like to give a shout out to my team here of Chris, Shayantani, and Evi, who helped make this a smooth experience for all of us. Thank you so much, CJ, for being persistent and insistent and doing it so well, and encouraging participation from all the participants. It's been a great pleasure to these past days towards the webinar. It's been a fantastic experience and it's been a very smooth experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you for everyone who joined us as well.
Thank you very much as well, guys, and hope to see you this November. All right, bye-bye.
Sure. All the best.